Welcome to the Art of Balancing It All podcast, a podcast where we get real about the struggles of trying to balance it all from love, family, self-care, career, and entrepreneurship.
Every 2 weeks, we'll talk to dope guests who will give you the goods on how to succeed in this thing called life.
We are your hosts. I'm Pam Thompson-Smith, better known as The Firm.
And I'm TT Lyle Ellis, the ambassador of Buzz.
Hello, everybody. Hello, TT.
Hi, Pam.
How are you?
I am good. I'm doing good.
That's good. It's good to be back. Yes, we are back, you guys, with a really, really exciting, informative show that we can't wait. We just can't wait to dive in and take a deep dive on this great topic. I mean, it's a topic that you're either experiencing it, or I guarantee you know someone that's experiencing grief. And We're in the holidays. We just had Thanksgiving, and it's just coming up as Christmas, and it's just hard. You know, it's hard for a lot of people coming out of the pandemic with almost 2 years now, but it's just been so much death. Death. And so we know that there are people that are going through, like, what do I do? You know, it's a new normal. What's the holidays going to be like without my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my friend, maybe your child, you know? So we definitely wanted to talk about that. TT and I have experienced death in our families over the last couple years, and TT more recently. And this will be your first holiday without your dad. So yes. I think the one thing that our show does for me is that there's always something, that a nugget or something that I can take from it, because I'm experiencing something that we end up talking about. So today, I think this is going to help both of us. And I especially, hope that it really helps you, because I can't even imagine. Yes, I've experienced death, but nothing, like a parent and having first holidays, first birthdays. First, you just had a birthday, and your dad is usually here with you on your birthday or right before you go take your trips and stuff like that. So, I know it's difficult. So I'm excited about this show. This show is designed to help others as well as ourselves.
That's true. And things like just, my dad did great birthday cards. He always had the best birthday cards. So just going through those holidays, and we did feel compelled to do this show. And we want to talk about grief in different ways, right, Pam? It's not always a loss of someone through death, but it could be a loss of a relationship.
That's right.
Either way, you're grieving, right?
That's right.
So we were compelled to give you some tools to really help you navigate the holidays and get through these difficult times.
Absolutely. And some people don't think about that, but even in the loss of a relationship, you go through, if it was a deep one, you go through the same steps of people that are grieving a death, because it's a loss.
Is.
So it's definitely about loss of any type, and how do you cope with that as you go through the holidays? So I don't know about you, but I am ready.
I am too.
Amazing guest, and I am ready to definitely get started with introducing our first guest. She's an amazing young lady. Her name is Xanthia, and I think, did she say that was German? What did she say?
Yes.
German. I love it. Let me try to say it again. Xanthia. So I get to introduce you to her. She's a licensed expressive arts psychotherapist. She's a media consultant. She does it all. She's a compassionate anti-racism trainer. She's a founder and CEO of Urban Pathology LLC, which is located in DC. DC is in the house twice tonight, right?
Yes.
Xanthia has over a decade of experience helping to heal the brokenhearted. She knows trauma, she knows pain and suffering like no other. She also knows the face of resilience and recovery from the ashes of all the things hurtful and destructive. Xanthia is trained in transformative psychotherapy and creative arts therapy. She adores this work. It's amazing when people adore what they do. Georgetown was her most recent site of graduate study. Xanthia applies her passion for social justice, equity, and inclusion to her work with outliers, unique families, LGBTQIQA folk, and people of color. Her Young Dope of Color and other sacred art group welcomes super smart, progressive, and just plain dope people of color who love art, and healthy homemade delicacies. And Xanthia is northernly born with decadent southern swirls. Please welcome Xanthia Johnson to the art of balancing it all.
Thank
Welcome,
you
Xavier.
all. Thank you for having
Welcome.
me. You made it through my big old intro there, my big old bio there.
Yes, you are simply amazing. And we
Yes,
had to
she
hit
is.
every bit of it to do justice
That's right.
for all that you do. So we're just super excited that you had time to actually come on and talk to us tonight in one of the areas of your focus areas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next up, we have Helena Bates, whose brand Heartthrob Access is dedicated to love after loss. Heartthrob Access has been recognized by Tabitha Brown and other social media influencers like I Am Zoe. Heartthrob Access mission is to share love after loss by honoring loved ones and acknowledging the grief and supporting others. As the child of a single parent, Helena's mother was all she had. She was her provider, her protector, and her best friend. We know how that feels, don't we, Pam?
Absolutely.
When she unexpectedly died at the young age of 33 from complications with asthma, Helena was 14 and had no experience with losing a loved one. When her family arrived at the school to tell her that her mother had passed away, she heard the words, but really did not know what it meant. It didn't register until months later that she would never see her again. So, due to the factors surrounding her mother's death, she did not have the support that she so desperately needed. And in 2016, after an unexpected breakup, she began to do some self reflection. She realized that after every disappointment, failure, or bad experience, the pain from losing her mother would resurface. She knew she needed to open up and allow healing to take place. She also knew that her mother would not want her to be the source of her pain. Amen. She wanted to find a way to express her love for her mother and decided to start Heartthrob Access. The brand is a way to pay homage to her mother while supporting others who lost loved ones. And February 28th is no longer a dreaded day of tears and pain, but a day of a wonderful memory, which is also, get this, the anniversary date of her first Heartthrob Access sale. So please welcome Helena Bates, who's going to come on and share her story as well.
Hi,
Hello.
Awesome. Hello. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm so thankful to be here.
Wow, we're
Glad to
excited.
have both of you.
Yeah, but y'all are amazing.
Yes. Yes,
Cannot
indeed.
wait to just dive even deeper. So, what we like to do before I start the questioning, we know that people come to you and you guys help each other all the time, help other people all the time.
Yes.
So, before we start, we do a wellness check. And so, when we say, "How are you? How are you doing? How are you navigating during this time?" we really mean that. It's not just like, "Hey, how you doing?" So, we want to ask each of you. I'll start with you, Zandy. If nobody's asked you lately, how are you doing?
I really appreciate the question. How am I doing? I feel like I'm walking through quicksand, really. I'm sludging through.
I can relate.
Therapists have problems too.
That's right.
And I've been in deep, consistent dialogue with my mentors these days. They're all elders, and I only talk to the 50 and over crew. I'm just north of 50, but I only talk to them because they've been through some ish, and lived to tell the tale. That I tell you, I am so humbled by the true pain.
Wow. Well, I qualify at 54, so we can have a conversation. Well, good. That's, we definitely want to, ask people, we definitely like, how are you doing? And I can relate, just like the quicksand. And it just like, it depends on the day. Depends on the day. Absolutely. Helena, how are you doing?
Look, I felt that quicksand comment. Well, I'm doing fine. I got some bad news on Thanksgiving. I found out one of my exes died, so I've been trying to make it through that, and I also have to attend his funeral coming up. So, like I said, I'm at a transitional phase in my life as far as I'm working remotely. I'm staying with family, and then I'm trying to juggle that as well as with my business because I make all of my shirts myself. So that can get very overwhelming because if I get 200 orders, I have to make 200 shirts. So I'm just trying to figure that all out and get it out of my house and put it into an actual place. And so like you, I'm trying to scale up.
That's awesome.
All right.
That's awesome.
That's a blessing.
The joys of having a lot of business.
Yes.
Joys and sometimes a curse, right?
Yes.
But we are so thankful for it.
Yes.
Yes.
Amen. Put that energy out there. We are thankful
Yes.
for it. So we're getting ready to take a deep dive and jump right in on grief. So Zandia, tell us first, what is grief? What is grief? And then what are the triggers of life events that are causes of grief?
So grief, as defined in the dictionary, is deep sorrow that is caused by someone's death. There are a number of life events that can create the sense of grief, and they are not always bad things. So the traditional ones might be losing the death of a loved one, losing a job, losing a relationship, selling your car, losing your home.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are examples of some situations where we would expect grief. These other situations, like when you get married to your forever love, can sometimes remind you of all of the relationships that you had to go through until you kiss this prince or this princess. It can be, reconciling a relationship. There's grief associated with that period of the relationship that wasn't going well and that you don't want to repeat. There can be some anxiety that develops around that. So it's important to remember that grief can go along with what we feel like are negative, difficult situations, and then also too with positive ones.
Wow.
Wow, that's good.
Wow.
Okay.
So that definitely it expands the scope of grief, right? That most of us don't think about when we let go of a car. We're letting go of memories. We're letting go of everything we placed into that. And then also with the relationship of getting married, you're also leaving the single life, right? So that is a great way to put it. So, Helena, this question is for you. I was on your Instagram recently, and there is a picture where you show that grief has so many different components. I'll read off what those components are. So there is acceptance, there is denial, there's bargaining, there's anger, there is depression. And it's a powerful image because it goes beyond what people typically think of as sadness and depression, right? And it goes into the extent of emotions that one can experience through grief. And this question, I'm going to start with Xanthia. Could you share with the audience just a little bit, what does grief look like, the stages, and what can one expect as they begin to experience grief?
Okay, yes. So the stages of grief are acceptance, where you say, you know what, I'm so glad my loved one is out of pain. I couldn't bear seeing them that way anymore. I accept that this is part of where we are with life right now. And then you can have bargaining, where this person is ill and you see where things are going, or even if it's something sudden, even if it's a sudden death, you think, okay, I will, you maybe sometimes begin summoning your higher power. Okay, God, this is what I'm willing to do in order to, please just let them be okay. Please let this be, a cruel joke. Please let this not be true. And so that's part of the bargaining, which also too connects with the denial. This person is not, this is not happening. This didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is not happening. This didn't happen. You know, I remember doing a notification to one of the young people that, from the school where I was working, and you know, her father had passed away, and we had to inform her. And she was about 7 or so, and so we went to her home and informed her of this information, and she said no.
Mm.
He's not dead. And it was punctuated, like, don't say another word to me about this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can take it. And it was a complicated grief because her dad had not been involved in her life.
Mm.
All of her hopes of being able to connect with him, he was in another country, all of those were dashed away in one moment.
Yeah.
So you have the bargaining, the acceptance, the grief. And what's important to understand about the 5 stages, as you know, as established by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who developed these stages, we can go back and forth. You know, in the therapy room, encouraging people to accept and understand that there's days that you're going to be in full acceptance. There's days when you're going to say, this is, you know, when I get home, they're going to be there. Or when I pick up the phone to call them, they're going to be on their side. And so giving yourself permission to humbly accept that vacillation is a big part of moving through grief.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think that's a big part of it, is understanding the bouncing back and forth. There is no circle, right? And there is no path. It's unique to everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and most people say that the most common question I get as a psychotherapist is, I can't take this anymore. How much longer am I be feeling this way? Can you give me a date on the calendar when I don't have to expect to feel this way? Or it's been 2 years, it's been 3 years. In the grand scheme of things, if you think about the universe, 2 years is but a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we think about, you know, the relativity of time. And so the most challenging thing to me about grief is the way we judge ourselves.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
The way we judge ourselves for being in true pain.
Mm.
The guilt, the shame for not being able to have it all together.
Yeah.
And feeling like a failure.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing about it.
Yeah. You remind me of something my therapist says: give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
Every time she says, give yourself grace. Yes, you got to give yourself grace. So,
Absolutely.
Helena, you shared the post, and you also in that post shared that denial was your emotion for a significant amount of time.
Yes.
And that was what derailed you from your journey of healing. Can you share a little bit more about how you were able to get back to your journey of healing?
So basically what I did was, and you know, because at 14, nobody actually explained to me like, hey, your mom is, you know, your mom, you're just not going to see her again. Nobody explained to me what death meant. So for probably the first 7 years, I like smoked. I was high. I tried to get high every chance I get, because I noticed that, oh, when I'm high, I don't think about this anymore. So, you know, I tried to stay that way for as long as I could. And then, I mean, for the most part, for the majority of my adult life, I just pretended like I was okay. And every time I got by myself, I was crying. And I did that for a while. That became my new normal. And really and truly, until I until I went through that breakup and until I did some soul searching, it's just like, you cannot continue on this way, because I typically, from Valentine's Day, I would cut my phone off, shut it off, and I would like not answer my phone when I got off of work. I would shut down those 2 weeks, because I know that during those 2 weeks, it was a time for, it was going to be the anniversary of my mom's death. And I would just shut down that Valentine's Day each year. And so that 2016, when I started my brand, I said, you know what, this is my last year doing this. This year, we're going to do something different, because your mother would not want you to sit around for 26 years, like shutting down like this. Like, I didn't have kids because of my grief. So I knew that it was time for me to just let that go and move forward. And once I did that, it's like so many things fell into place. I mean, if I was to, some of the things I would tell you, you wouldn't even believe, because it's just like everything that I needed to move and to heal. It's like, as soon as I made that choice, everything worked in my favor to help me do it. So I am so thankful that I decided to do that. Because like, for people just be like, oh, you're just selling shirts. I'm just like, honey, what I got is way, I mean, you can't buy
That's
it.
right.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the shirts. It's about the healing. Yeah.
That's real good.
So making that choice, I had to decide that I wanted to come out of that. So you have to make a decision that, I've had enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore.
Because pain is inevitable, but suffering is always optional.
Can you repeat that?
Yes.
And pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Oh, thank you for sharing.
That's powerful. Powerful. I have another question, but before I go there, I'm going to go back to Helena, or either one of you can answer, because one of the things on your graphic was that we haven't talked about yet is depression. And so I just want to talk about, like, how does one recognize, because depression is another thing that looks different on everybody else.
That's right.
Because we all could get Oscars for getting up, putting your face on, going out, doing what you got to do, doing your job, whatever it is, and nobody even knowing what you're going through, right? Until you get home, like you said, you got home and you cried, and all you do is cry, but that's behind closed doors. But for some, they may not even be crying. They're just working or just different things. So how do you recognize the grief trigger that's depression? How do you recognize that? And does it show up in other forms? Does it show up in sickness in your body? Like different things. Depression isn't always just crying all day long and being sad. Right. So can you guys address that? Both of you, maybe?
Sure. I mean, there are research studies that show that those who live with depression have shorter lifespans. Their immune systems tend to be more compromised. Their ability to bounce back from illness is from the range of illnesses that their bodies may experience, because depression gets at us on a cellular level, on a molecular level. Okay. It has a lot of different faces. It can be joy. On the outside, you're just so joy filled and happy. It can be profound sadness, and it's very, very painful. It's caused by the changes that happen in the brain, because once the brain gets that shock, that trigger that initiates the grief, the chemistry in the brain actually changes. And so the level of dopamine and serotonin that you get in your brain, those chemical levels shift. And so just understanding that depression is a medical condition, and no one wakes up to say, you know what, I'm going to be depressed today. Sometimes our loved ones experience it as an inconvenience, and they feel annoyed because they've been working so hard to help cultivate happiness in us. And sometimes in that active fantasy of cultivating happiness for us, they've forgotten us in it.
Yeah. How about
They've forgotten us in it, and that creates more alienation. Not enjoying the things that you used to do. We call that anhedonia. Changes in appetite, changes in sleeping patterns, changes in energy levels. the negative thinking loop. Everything you look at, everything you see, everything you hear, there's always a negative spin that comes from you about it. That is something to think about. There's no such thing as being that depressed. Depression is depression. Okay. And the last thing I'll say about it is that for those of you who are listening, you may be going through depression yourselves. If you're adults, it is very hard to be living with depression in your body as a young person.
Mm-hmm.
You're 4, you're 5, you're 6, you're 12, you're 14. You see what your parents' life is like. You know the sacrifices that they made for you, and you don't want to be depressed. You know they worked hard to put you in private school, and you feel awful that you keep turning over D's with your best foot forward. And so the guilt and shame that comes along with depression is also too very, very painful, especially for young people. They cannot organize their own treatment. And in order to have their treatment organized, there has to be a few adults in their lives who say, you know what, this could probably be a thing for my kid. Doesn't mean I did anything wrong. This could just probably be a thing. And it's an opportunity for me to be of service to my young one.
To be of service and be their voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Powerful.
And I actually like what you, well, not like what you said, but I know that it's true because like I ended up having an autoimmune disease. So I know that, you know, that was something that my depression probably led to because I wasn't dealing with it. And it also affected me because me not talking about how I was feeling also like made me have issues with like setting boundaries for people because I could barely tell you what I'm feeling. So when people did stuff to me that they wasn't supposed to, I didn't even speak up on it because it was just like, what's the point? You know, I got in that, I was in a will of not talking about what I was feeling or what I was going through. So that affect me in other ways.
Wow.
This is so very powerful. So we're going to stay right there and talk about how grief can affect us. And we have great conversations before the show and different things as we read about you guys just really intrigue us. And so, Zandy, I'm going to start with you and ask you about to tell us more about the neurobiology of grief and the impact of that on Black people.
Absolutely. So when we experience grief, there are studies that suggest that there's an activation of the common areas of the brain. So the anterior cingulate cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, the prefrontal cortex, the insula, and the amygdala. And those areas of the brain are responsible for giving us access to joy, for helping us figure out things. And so I like to actually just describe it in the way of right and left brain. So the right brain is the creative part. It's the one that helps us get up and pick out our, the earrings that are going to match perfectly with our outfit with our eyes closed. That's the right side of the brain. The right side of the brain is what helps you figure out how to navigate, navigate through this creative project you've got going on. That when we experience grief, that part of the brain that's responsible for the left brain, the part of the brain, the left brain that's responsible for helping us understand and figure things out, that gets atrophied. So you can imagine if you have a sponge in your hand and you squeeze all the water out, that's what happens to the left brain. So, and that's the part of the brain that most are trying to engage, to understand, to get to some sense of peace. When that part of the brain is atrophied and that right side, that emotional side is so expansive, you've got an imbalance in the brain. And so you're standing there, it's been 30 minutes, you're looking for your keys and they're in your hand. You got in the car to drive somewhere and you don't remember the commute.
Yeah.
Yes.
You forgot your driver's license 3 days ago. You saw it 3 days ago. Those are the kinds of things that happen when grief steps upon us in life. But it's important for us to remember that for every hurt, there's a healing. And we cannot have the joy without the pain.
Without the pain.
Frankie Beverly, they got something, those medals on their mantle are about the real thing. This is a life.
Yeah.
And I'll stop here to let Helena share more. I'd love to hear.
Okay, what was your question again?
She was talking about I guess like more like the chemical imbalance that happens when you're going through grief, and how neurobiology and how that relates specifically to Black people.
Yeah. Well, I think my thing is I feel like we don't talk about death enough, because I think it would ease a little bit of the sting of it if I've ever had a conversation about it. And for instance, I'll use something that Tabitha Brown talks about a lot. And she talks about like how her mom, she knew her mom was going to pass away, and they talked about the dimes, and I'm gonna leave you dimes. And that was something that, they share with each other. I remember hearing that story, and it's just like, dang, I wish me and my mom had talked about, hey, like one day I'm not going to be here or something like that, just so I could even like embrace that. I don't think we talk about it enough. I don't think we talk about it at all. Like I had a friend, she told me recently, she's like, well, I don't want to have a funeral. And she has kids and her mother's still living. So I'm like, well, why are you telling me? You're supposed to tell your kids, because they're not going to listen to me if I just come up and say, well, your mom didn't want to have a funeral. But you should talk about that with your kids. And I just feel like, because it's something that sometimes often is viewed as scary, we just kind of avoid the subject of it, because you don't want to think about, like that you're not going to be here, because we're so attached to, this life that we have here now. So I think we should talk about it more, because it would have helped me so much more if somebody had a conversation with me about what death was and how it was going to affect me when I was younger.
Yeah. It goes back so far to us being in survival mode for so long, right? Because if you think about it in African cultures, if you go to some of the African cultures that still have it, some cultures, when the elder is about to pass, they bring them home so that they could share their wisdom. Mm-hmm. But we lost that when we came here, and not talking about death was a way of surviving, right? A way of making it through the day. So it's amazing how some of our responses are so deep into how we got here. Isn't that amazing?
They're definitely ingrained on a molecular level.
Yes.
We as a people have been taught to be invisible. Everything about who we are is supposed to be suppressed. Mm-hmm. And we had to suppress to survive.
Yeah.
You wake up the morning after your grandfather has been hung. Mm-hmm. You're still expected to work the cotton fields.
That's right.
With a smile on your face.
That's right.
So the privilege of being able to grieve was actually ripped away from us. And we were sold a grand lie about how we should celebrate our loved ones. And that was by working more for the white man, making him rich. And I say this lovingly, without, respectfully, without any judgment. This is the reality. For me, I've been on this journey with the Compassionate Anti-Racism Project, where, we help white people leverage their privilege to be a voice for the voiceless. And I realized in the last year and a half or so, I can no longer afford to go silent when I experience an aggression. I don't believe in macro or micro. An aggression is an aggression. If it scares me, if it rocks my world for a second, it's real. It's my experience.
That's right.
And so I've had to find a way to say compassionately, I feel like I'm experiencing your privilege in this point, in this moment. It doesn't matter to me whether you understand that or believe that. What matters to me most is that I have to say something now to you directly, so that I can be alive for my nephew.
Mm.
That's important for me. And most white people look at me like I'm crazy because I'm not hitting them with an angry black woman. But I am saying this is not okay for me. And I owe you an apology if at any point in our interactions I led you to believe that it
That
was
it was
okay
okay.
and okay to interact with me this way. You know?
Yeah.
My depression, all of that, all of my experiences, overeating, shopping, all of the things that I did to kind of soothe myself to be silent really converged, and certain things just over time, you can't do what you did before and expect the same results.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You have to be willing to try something different.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like from Helena's story to your story that being able to, one, come out of denial, and then being able to find your voice and say what you're feeling and feel comfortable in it is part of getting through the different stages, whatever it might be, whatever emotion it is, right? Whether it's depression or not. Um, my next question is, I wanted to talk to you all about Iman. Tamron Hall recently had Iman on her show, and they were talking about David Bowie's death. And I was surprised to find out. I wasn't surprised. It's what we do. But Iman had done what typical moms do, and that is make sure that her daughter made it through her grieving process and had not taken care of herself for her grieving process. And she said she later found out that 2 years later that grief came to her door and told her to sit down, and she had to sit in it. And she says it came out of nowhere. But later, as she went through the grief, she got to the point where she could find joy in the memories of her loved one. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. For those who may be experiencing grief during the holidays, who may be experiencing grief from a number of things, as we talked about, how do they get to the point of finding joy from the memories and finding joy of what they've lost?
For me, it took me a long time to get there because I spent the majority of my time pretending. So actually being aware of, so let's say for instance, just like I just told you about the dime story with Tabitha Brown. So, and I said that I wish I had an instance where like I felt this sign or I felt something like a message from my mom. So recently, probably like 2 weeks ago, me and my sister, we went to and her family, we went to the museum in DC. And so we went to the cafe afterwards, and like randomly in a jar was my mother's favorite candy bar. Now, something that you don't see at the grocery store. I haven't seen her zero bar in probably about 10 years.
Yes.
And when I saw them in the jar, I'm like, what? And then I looked at my sister and I tapped her, like, look. And she's like, what? And I'm like, look at the jar, look at the candy bar. And she was like, wow. I mean, we were both like so shocked. And I was like, I feel like that was her, saying, hey, I see y'all. Because my mother was really big on the, hey, I want you two to stay a unit. I want you two to stay tight. I want y'all to be there for each other. And that's exactly what we've done. So I can't tell you how many times I see her birthday on like car tags, or I catch her birthday on the clock, or I see the day she passed away. So that's the good side of it for me, because I've tell myself that's her saying hello to me. That's her letting me her letting me know that she's here with me. And so to me, that's a good side of grief to me, because you still have that connection, even though she's not here physically. But if you're so stuck in your sadness, I didn't notice these things before. And I could have been getting those signs the whole time, but because I'm so, I was so stuck in my sadness, I missed those signs.
Yeah, I love what Helena is sharing, because the only way to truly honor the relationship and honor what was is to really stand in love. And my most recent acronym for love is letting others voluntarily fall. I really love this person. I'm going to let them evolve and I'm going to celebrate that evolution. And that evolution always leads me to a place of hope, which for me these days stands for hang on, pain ends.
Girl.
Girl. I'm the acronym queen here. And so maybe it is, so some of your listeners are going to be really upset with me. There's a part of sadness when it becomes so selfish, it dishonors what was. And I think about what I'm really crying about. I'm not crying because this person passed away. It's because I'm afraid that I'm not going to be okay in their absence. I am trying to get hold of the belief they had in me. And maybe it was that they were in my life as a gift for the time that I needed them, you know. And maybe all that's needed in return is my gratitude for that gift. You know, the gifts don't need to be paid back with my grief and suffering. Like I don't have to perform that. I only get to and have to practice the gratitude around it.
That is so true. That is so true. That is so true.
Yeah. Yes. Love it.
Wow. This is so powerful. I don't even want to go on to the next question. But you talked about gratitude. You talked about love, letting others voluntarily evolve. And then you talked about hope. Now that was very powerful for me. Hang on, the pain ends. So we can understand that, right, as adults through our experiences. So now let's talk about that child, that 14-year-old Helena, you know, that, you know, she said she'd rather stay high. And then we know what we've also discussed now, what the grief, what that may have done to her body and how it triggered illnesses. So what do you tell parents, you know, how do they deal with their children so that they don't get stuck in grief? If you both can kind of expound on, you know, some advice to tell a parent or parents that, you know, have children that just don't understand why this had to happen.
Yeah.
And how do they get through the holidays?
Helena?
I'm trying to think, like, what would I want somebody to tell the 14-year-old Helena? Because, you know, like, and now at this point, it's like, okay, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. And at least explain the process to me that, you know, just be kind of blunt about it. Like, hey, you're not gonna see them again. Because I'll never forget when I first went back to school, one of my classmates, she was like, Helena, there go your mama. Like, as soon as I walked into class, and I was like excited because I was like, you know, and it's just like, well, you know, and now that I think about it as an adult, I was like, I probably should have slapped her. But, you know, at least that it was something that I thought that I was going to actually see her again, even though I had gone through the funeral. I had went through the whole process. So if someone had explained to me what was actually going on, then I would have handled that. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have been as traumatizing for me to go through if someone had talked to me about that. So, and also giving me a chance to explain how I feel. Nobody asked me how I felt. To tell you the truth, nobody in my family even gave me anything of my mother's. I don't have anything of hers. Nothing. My entire family. Nobody gave me nothing of hers. So, and if it's money involved with it, that's a whole nother ballpark, because if I get started on that, we'll be here to.
Oh, honey,
that's a whole nother show.
That's a whole different show.
I know the money, and you might see them as dollar signs, but those kids are broken. So for me, I wish I would have had counseling. I needed grief counseling, so I could have had a normal life.
Amen.
Yeah, deaths, weddings, and birthdays all bring out the best and worst in all of us. And part of the grief is, you know, acknowledging that this loved one who's here may not have the best intentions towards us in this moment. Maybe they have their eye on something different, and it's being disguised as care for me. That I think that for young children, what the way that I explain it is that this person's body is going to stop working. So we use a very concrete means, especially when we have the resource of time. So this person's body is going to stop working, and then sometimes we'll do an exercise where we place something, an object, on the other side of a door, right? And then we close the door. Okay, so the object is there, but we can't see it. We know it's there, and now it's our job to begin feeling with it. It's an exercise that's done oftentimes with children who are terminally ill. And I think that for young people, I use a lot of metaphor in my work. So we say it's our job as the adults to be in that hot oven, okay? Those kids are going to peek their heads into that oven, and it's our job to be there when they peek in, because nobody's going to stay in that hot oven forever. They're going to withdraw from it. And as we as adults begin to accept the death, we can withstand not only the heat, that we can withstand everything that comes with that young person being in the oven at that point. And this too shall pass is real.
That's right.
For every tough wave, it is just that. In the moment in the body, it feels like it's never going to end. That with the breath, sending the breath through the body, which also too helps massage the brain to know, okay, you're not in any danger. Nobody's coming to hurt you right now. There is a way to begin to have peace and to celebrate that relationship. You got a lot of work to do when somebody passes away. You got to get on with the business of honoring them in every way, in every moment of every day. That's the job. That's the work. It's righting all the wrongs from that relationship, and being able to see a brighter day. Young people, teens are going to be, they got all those hormones running through their bodies, and now they got this situation. They can't see the forest for the trees. It's hard being a teen because you have all the adult hardware, but you still don't have the wisdom, but you think you do. And so the job of being a parent in these moments is an art. It really is an art.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies. This is what we finally want to do is we want to leave our audience with some tools and some practices that they can put in place today. We just had Thanksgiving last week. We still have Christmas. We still have New Year's. There may be birthdays in between. What are 3 to 5 tips that you would give our audience right now that they can put into place to help them through grief during the holidays?
I would say one thing that I like to do on my Instagram page with my followers, sometimes when they wear their shirts in memory of their loved ones, I always ask them what's their favorite memory of their loved one. And then that's something you can do with your family, because then you all are going to have positive thoughts about them because you're sharing your favorite memory. So everybody gets a chance to do that. And oftentimes we have some very funny stories with our loved ones. So that puts you in a better place. If you don't want to go places, it's okay. It's fine. Stay home. Do whatever it is that you want to do because it's your process. And if you don't want to be bothered, that's okay. I personally anytime that
Right.
I mean, of course I still cry, of course I still get sad, but the one thing that I know that is my mama loved me. And so there is no way that she will want me to stay in my sadness. And so I always tell myself, come on, we got to go. Because I have a good sense of humor. So I'm always laughing. So just think about it. There, it's your loved one. They wouldn't want you sad. They just would not want you sad. So you have to, I mean, you can pull yourself out of it. I do. But just thinking that myself. Let me see. I think that's about it. So, because was that two? Was that two things or one? That was two. You
That
said
was
three
two.
to five.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and let Xanthia, and then if I think of something else, I'll come back.
Okay.
Let's get busy with talking to our loved one out loud. I don't care where you are.
That's right.
At the grocery store, in the line at the pharmacy. Every time you do that, you invite others to do it too. Get busy with reestablishing that relationship. Like Helena said, she started to see mom in these places because she was able to get to that place of acceptance. Even if it's, I don't know why you had to die on me. I really don't appreciate that. What you doing out there in heaven? What you doing in the stars? You know, really began to lean into that. And I think having an affirmation of some sort is also too helpful. You know, for me these days, it's my life is unfolding beautifully. My life is unfolding beautifully. So having a lullaby that's verbal can actually calm the nervous system. Get on the phone and start looking for a grief counselor. It's going to take a while. So you don't want to wait until you're upset. Start interviewing counselors now. See if their vibe is something that merits hearing, merits the privilege of hearing your story. Okay. Um, Make sure that you're doing this is going to sound really crazy. Halt. Make sure you don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom. When you're thirsty, reach for water. It's these basic things that we tend to gloss over that help become the building blocks for, greater, bigger things. Check on people the way you want them to check on you. Sometimes the best way to get out of grief is to be of service to others. Even when you feel slighted and cheated, and know that you're okay. You will be okay. If you think back to all the rough things you've been through in your life, you can see how it's led you to the life that you worked so hard to cultivate right here in the now.
Amen.
You bad.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
They don't want you smoke. They don't want you smoke.
Right.
They're going to be better when you make it through.
Yes.
So bad.
Yes. Oh, and I did think of something else. So here's the thing, like as a kid, I didn't have like the best relationship with my dad, but he was still living. And so I made an effort to reach out and reestablish that relationship. So I want to remind people that you have to really hone in on the relationships that you still have access to. Because oftentimes I was so stuck in, okay, like my mom's not here, my mom's not here. I missed the part that my dad married I have an awesome stepmom. And it was just like, wow, I almost missed this blessing because I mean, she treats me just like I'm one of her kids. So we have to remember, to love on those that we still have access to, because oftentimes we could be so sad, we forget to spend time with the ones that we still have access to. And next thing you know, they slip away, what I'm saying? So, or they pass away. So don't forget the relationships that you do still have access to, because those people will help you get through life a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and your relationship with yourself. We always talk about intimacy, with our boo. Intimacy is into me see. intimacy, that relationship with yourself is something that you can apply. And when we reach out for help, sometimes the fantasy of the expectation about how somebody's going to respond or what is on the other side of the query gets really big. Remember, the goal of asking for help is to hear yourself do it. It doesn't matter what comes back on the other side. It's acknowledging your humanness.
Woo.
That's good.
Woo.
I need help. I need help.
Acknowledging
I'm
it.
struggling.
Yes. If I would have did that so long ago, I'm telling you. But I'm so happy that I did, and that I took this time, and I took this moment, and I just made a little shirt. I can't believe it. And to say that, okay, hey, I took a stencil and a ruler and made a logo, and now I have like what looks to be one of the first brand for grievers, because
Yeah.
when I look for competition, I don't see anything out there. So it's like, I can't believe that I created this out of so much pain. And here's the story that I just want to share. Like, when I first started this brand, I was on a date with a guy, and he was like, "Well, you're gonna have to work on your delivery, because when you talk about, the meaning of the brand, I hear so much pain in your voice." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know how to get that out of there. That's in there. That's embedded in my heart." So maybe after a year and a half later, there was a local DJ. He was having a party somewhere. And so I was like, okay, he had mentioned on Instagram he had lost both of his parents. So I was like, well, I'm going to take him a shirt. I saw him, he was DJing somewhere. So I'm like, today I'm taking him a shirt. I took that man a shirt, and maybe 2 months later, he wore it in a music video. And he said to me on Instagram, when I thanked him for it, he said, I had so much passion in my voice when I came up to him and I talked about it. And I like cried for 3 days, and not because I was in pain, but it was just like, oh my gosh, I went from pain to passion. And just by telling my story,
Yes.
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 That's
yes,
the power of
yes.
sharing.
TT and Pam, I'm gonna put y'all on the spot. I don't know if you're gonna be with me on this.
Let's go.
But if you look at Helena's rectangle, don't you see her mom?
Oh, wow.
Her mom is there.
I've seen I've seen this glow around her.
Yes.
I've seen the glow.
Yes.
I have seen the
I
glow.
know she is. I know she. I mean, in everything I do, I feel like, whoa, she is on me today, and I'm so thankful for it.
Yes.
I'm so thankful for it. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
She's right there with you. She's right there with you, cheering you on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow.
And I can vouch for that. They will show you that they are there. My dad certainly has done that. One of the things that I love is, Helena, you allow people to do exactly what Xanthia said, is acknowledge their loss. And so please let people know how they can get in touch with you and be a part of the brand and grab their own shirt. And then after that, we'll tell them how they can connect with Xanthia.
Okay. I am on. I run pretty much Heartthrob Access by myself. So I do have somebody finally help me with the social media. But if you send me a DM on Heartthrob Access, I check it. I check the DMs. I'm like, I say we on Instagram, but it's me. Like, I'm the person calling people, hey, look, your order's running behind. I'm the one making your shirt. I'm reordering. I'm the we at Heartthrob.
We can relate.
Yeah, I'm the we there. There is no we, but I'm speaking my team into existence. So
That's it.
you can find me on Instagram, and I'm in the process now of kind of trying to put it in other stores, but I know that's gonna be a slow process. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna start with some smaller boutiques and work my way up. So they can find me on Instagram, and I think my name on my personal page is Heartthrob Helena. I know you don't know me, but feel free to reach out to me. I've made some friends through my brand. I've never met those people in my life, but I check on them occasionally. And so that's something that has been so rewarding to me, is reaching out to people that come to me and they share their grief with me. So I made friends through this brand that I actually still reach out to, like, hey, how was your holiday? Well, it's going to get better. So I'm there for those people. And they'll tell you that right now, like,
Yes.
you are really, really nice. And it's just like, listen, I'm just trying to be what I needed when I was a kid.
and I can vouch to it. We talked for a half an hour.
Yes, yes. I
Talked about this podcast. I had a ball.
Wow.
I've had those conversations with so many people, and they're just like, "Girl, we are really vibing." I like, listen, I do this with everybody. Y'all are my family, you know.
Yes.
So
What walks in complete authenticity. I love it.
Yes.
I
Love it. I'm just trying to be what I needed.
yes, that's all I could do is be what I needed, because I needed a lot, and so I try to be that, because I swear I'm gonna write a book one day, and I'm gonna let y'all know when I write it. Because
All right now.
We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back on to talk about it.
Okay.
All right. Xanthia, let us know how to get in touch with you.
Yes, well, on December the 15th, I'm going to be hosting a free meditation for Black women, and it's going to be at 12:30 on that Wednesday, December the 15th, and it's really dope what we do, and I'm doing it in conjunction with Kokoro and Mim Connect and Bright Ventures. And my website is www.urbanplayology, it's all one word, .com. I love Instagram followers. So my Instagram handle is @urbanplayology.com. And our email address is hello@urbanplayology.com. We return every call and we respond to every email. If we don't, it's because we missed it. Circle back with us and we give you a discount. We are here to be what you deserve, the quality support that you've always deserved. And I'm so grateful to Pam and TT for giving me an opportunity to do this. Every time you get to do something like this, you hear yourself saying the things that your heart needs to hear too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
You guys
Yes,
have been
indeed.
a blessing to me.
Yes, yes. So thank you for joining us. We will have the information that was just shared here on the art of balancing it all. We are also always available wherever you listen to podcasts. So be sure to check us out. Again, check this episode out so you can get connected on the art of balancing it all.
Absolutely. So again, we thank you for listening and watching, and make sure again that you check us out on all of our social media platforms. And if you like the show, come on and let us know. Let us know. And we'll see you soon.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Holidays.